There are 38 million Americans who are family caregivers. The value of their unpaid work is estimated at $600 billion a year. But the real price is their pain, loneliness, and stress. Barry Petersen found a group dedicated to working with caregivers and turned the pandemic into a way to spread their message of help.
You want some more coffee, honey?
I would love it.
Well, I thought you would.
Jim Meadows spent his 42-year career as a minister helping people.
Sweetie, here's some toast to go with your coffee.
These days, his help is focused on only one person, his wife, Georgie, who has Alzheimer's.
Today is Wednesday.
And now he is the one who needs help.
Mr. Man.
Yeah?
From support groups run by Duet, a 4-decade-old Phoenix organization devoted to family caregivers.
I think it's harder for men to admit that they need help in any kind of situation.
Does it help caregivers in places like, do you think, even just to know that someone else is going through this like them?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what drew me to a support group, because I needed to be with people who understood it.
Loneliness is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Ann Wheat is Duet's director.
These are unpaid family members primarily, sometimes friends, who have stepped up to the plate to do the hard work of caring for someone who no longer can fully care for themselves.
And then Duet discovered something, that the pandemic that shut down the world taught a lot of us a new skill: how to Zoom. Most of us remember the pandemic as kind of a bad thing, but in this case, it has come up with something good. How did that happen?
We realized that we had work to do to better serve the people we intend to serve. They can't all just make it to us. So we had to figure out how to make it to them, and we think of it as a virtual community for these family caregivers.
Where help could reach anywhere, like the small town of Berryville, Arkansas, population about 5,000, a place with few resources for family caregivers.
Many times it starts to feel like you're in this alone.
Where Cynthia Morin was caregiving for her husband Tom, who had dementia. In Duet, she found a support group, new friends, and advice, all one Zoom call away. So the value of this really is people who have made this journey ahead of you, and they reach out their hand to you.
Yes, absolutely. That makes a huge difference.
It really helped you get through all of this.
Oh, yes, and with sanity, without losing it.
Post-pandemic, we now have trained facilitators in 15 states, in Canada, and on the Navajo Nation, which really showed us that our model works in the most remote, isolated settings imaginable.
It sounds to me like you've developed a way of getting through this cloak of loneliness that surrounds caregivers.
I think we have.
We talked with members of an in-person Duet support group about giving fellow caregivers a virtual helping hand. Among them, Linda Rohde.
So I've touched people all over the country, which has been really powerful, both for me as a caregiver and being part of it, but then also just supporting others in this journey, because it's so misunderstood.
Even though it's on Zoom or it's not face-to-face, do you think you still break through into the loneliness that caregivers feel, the people at the other end of that computer?
I think I do, and I think one of the reasons that it's effective is that I'm living it as well. So I feel what they're going through, and I think that's powerful, rather than just being an outsider. But being an outsider looking in, I think when you've gone through it or you're living it now, it's amazing. It really does help people in a big way.
Sort of helps to be the soldier in the same foxhole.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
And Judy Hunter, who shares personal stories about her husband, now in assisted living.
He can't communicate. He starts saying something, and it's gone. My favorite thing to do with him is hugs. I have found that if I give him hugs, he really responds to them. And I respond to them because it's something that warms my heart.
And help comes from more than just fellow caregivers. Duet also sends out video seminars by Dr. Pauline Boss explaining ambiguous laws that many caregivers feel but often don't understand.
The person is physically present but psychologically absent. Their mind is going or missing. Ambiguous loss is a loss that doesn't have closure. It's a story without an end. You don't know how the ending will be. In fact, you don't even know when it will be.
For Cynthia, the seminars and the support group helped ease what haunts many caregivers, fear and guilt.
There were times that I was afraid. Here were other people that were afraid. There were times that I was exasperated and ready to get out. Here were other people who had had these problems too. So it gave me a little more courage to be able to face what might be coming for me.
With help from Duet and her Zoom friends, Cynthia had already learned the most critical lessons of all when Tom died a year ago. That she did all she could, and that she can now go on. For CBS Saturday Morning, Barry Petersen, Phoenix.
I'm so glad Barry did this story because so many people deal with it and we don't necessarily hear about it all the time, but that concept of ambiguous loss, being there physically but not mentally, and then the loved one not really having any closure, sometimes for a long time.
And I was taken by, you and I both sort of gasped at the loneliness is equal to 15 cigarettes a day.
Loneliness is equal to, yeah.
I think we talked about in the pandemic because so many people were dealing with it, but it just seems so staggering when you think of it again, and to just find a way to find people who know what you're going through that you can be with because of technology.
And it's not just loneliness. Oftentimes there are feelings of anger, of frustration, and you don't know how to share that without fear of judgment.
Right.
To be able to have people who truly understand is really valuable.
Or even feeling like you've told your friends the same thing over and over. They don't want to hear it again. Amazing story.
Yeah.